Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation that helps raise people's awareness.
Insightful tips and information to live in a healthier and happier life.
How to prevent it, detect or treat it.
Smooth Health is powered by Evercare Hospital, Lekki, transforming healthcare in Nigeria.
If you didn't know, now you know.
This is Smooth Health on the Drive.
Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. This is Smooth Health on the Drive, proudly sponsored by Evercare Hospital. We have a special guest with us today. We're talking about the social and emotional impact of hearing loss.
That's right. We have today with us in the studio, we have Promise Okonkwo. He's currently a clinical audiologist at Evercare Hospital, Lekki. And of course, we're going to be talking about the social and emotional impact of hearing loss. Now, he is a trained audiologist and speech language pathologist with experience in advanced diagnostics, hearing and balance disorders, speech therapy, rehabilitations, and also hearing amplification technologies. Now, Promise is a licensed professional with Medical Rehabilitation Board Therapist of Nigeria and a member of Speech Pathologist and Audiologist Association of Nigeria. Also, his clinical interests involve adults, pediatrics, advanced diagnostics, hearing technologies, healthcare leadership, and humanitarian outreaches. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Carly.
Good to have you here.
I'm curious, so what do we call you? Do you have a title?
No.
Or just say Promise?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, Promise. Awesome. All right, so could you explain to us about hearing loss?
Okay, I will simply put it. Hearing loss is a kind of a condition, that involves an individual inability to hear properly as compared to someone with normal hearing.
Okay.
Now, when you're saying compared to individuals with normal hearing, we kind of classify loss in the hearing to various degree. Now, we have individuals with normal hearing, we have individuals with mild loss in hearing, we have moderate, we have severe, and we have profound. So for an individual with normal hearing, you tend to say, okay, when we assess them, we have a parameters we use,
okay, which
is, let's say, 25 decibel, relative to the age of the individual, but across everywhere in the world, 25 decibel is good. So anybody that deviates from that, we say the person is experiencing hearing loss.
Okay.
But
it's from 25 decibels, yes. Like if it's lower,
if it's higher.
If it's higher.
If it's 30 decibel or it's 35 decibel
okay.
or above that, then you say the person is experiencing hearing loss.
Okay.
But it could be mild, you understand? Because a lot of people will say, I can hear, so you can't tell me I have hearing loss. A lot of us are going around with loss in our hearing, but we can't tell.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's something heavy. Okay, so I want to dive right into the emotional impacts. You and I are having this conversation as we're coming upstairs. So I want to talk about the emotional impacts of hearing loss on children and also on adults. So please explain to us the emotional impacts.
Yeah, there are quite a number of the emotional impact. Now, the common one is depression. Individuals with hearing loss tend to feel depressed. I would say it's just normal to feel depressed because you know that your sensory organ is not functioning at optimal.
Okay.
Then, and you try to understand why is that happening to you. Did you do anything wrong? Did you consume something that could have caused that? So, and if you could not get a reason why that is happening to you, at some point you feel depressed. Now, it also depends on the type of loss you are experiencing. So we'll get into that later. But the emotional aspect, people feel depressed, they experience anger when they cannot express themselves.
Well, it's understandable for adults to express anger, but how about children?
Yeah, children too have feelings. They want water, they want food, they want something, and they couldn't express it. Now, you talk to them and they couldn't listen. They didn't hear you.
Okay.
They didn't understand what you're saying. You as an adult, you feel like, what's wrong with this child? He's so stubborn. And children, even when they cannot talk, they can read your feelings. They can read your expressions, and they can see that you are angry at them. So automatically, they will be angry. They will be angry too at some point, because they cannot communicate to you. They can't tell you they want biscuits, because while they are trying to communicate to you, you don't understand that. They can't get what they want. So anger will set in.
All right. If you just joined us, by the way, this is Smooth 98.1. If you've got questions, you can send them into 0809-444-0981. Today, we're talking about the social and emotional impact of hearing loss, and we have with us Promise Okonkwo in the studio. He's an audiologist with Evercare Hospital, and he's leading us through these conversations.
So, Promise, I want to ask this. What are the most common causes of hearing loss and deafness?
Okay, we have a lot of them, but the ones that are quite common is exposure to excessive loud noise. You see people use headsets, even in traffic, with all the heavy traffic, you still see them. Most times when I sit beside people in public transport, you see them. You could hear what they are listening to, and I begin to wonder that
how loud is this?
How loud is this thing? You understand? So these are one of the things. Some people work in an environment that exposes them to loud noise. Construction sites. You see, these are market women that grind pepper. That's crazy. You understand?
Because it's a constant thing.
It's a constant
every day.
Every day. You understand? So this is one. Then medications. We call it, some drugs are toxic to the ear cells.
Okay.
So when you consume them without prescriptions or without management, like what I mean by management, that a doctor managing you to know when to use it and when not to use it. All this can tell on you. I had an experience with a young boy of about, I think, 4 years, was given injection and he lost his hearing.
Oh, wow.
So it was a very painful experience.
Was this a permanent loss?
A permanent loss.
Wow.
A very permanent. A boy that is very healthy, doing fine, full of life, but,
Is it like... Sorry, I have to deviate a little bit, but when you say an injection, are we talking about... Was there an illness? Was there something?
Yes, there was illness. There was illness. Understand? There was illness. The boy was ill, and they gave him that injection. Maybe an overdose of such injection or something. I don't understand the whole detail, but I met the dad and he said this is what happened to the boy. So I'm not surprised. I've seen a lot of such, understand. Injury too. A young girl of 6 years, about 5 years ago, the father came to me and said she fell in the bath and hit her head, and that's why she lost her hearing. So there is a part of the brain that is responsible for sound production, sound analysis and stuff like that. You understand? That part of the brain that is responsible for auditory exchange and stuff like that. Apparently, she hit that part on the floor, and that's how she lost her hearing. Permanent one. So injury too could cause it. Hearing loss related to age. As we age, naturally we lose every part of our body.
True.
We lose our strength, our sight. So hearing too is part of it. So these are the common ones. We also have congenital loss. It happens from birth. You can't explain what happened in there. Understand? So these are the very common ones.
Speaking about the loud noises, a lot of people use generators in their homes. Do you think that could possibly result in hearing problems?
Yes, absolutely yes. Very, very possible. Lots of all these, I better pass my neighbor.
4 generators on the same row behind the windows.
It's crazy.
So loud.
It's crazy. I experienced an older woman that have lived all her life in the village compared to a city woman. Most of the people that come from the village, they have a better hearing, 100%. I've seen it. It's a research. It's out there. It's like because they live in an environment where it's so serene, there is no generator noise. They might not be able to afford it, but they live in an environment where it's serene. All they hear every morning is birds singing,
nature,
goat bleating, and stuff like that. But you are in the city enjoying city life, but there's so much noise.
Doesn't seem like we're enjoying it very much.
So a lot of people don't understand what it means to enjoy it. You understand? But you cannot fault them. We need to leave. We need to make
we do need to leave. We need to use this light. Okay, well, let's talk about hearing impairments now. How do they affect communication and also language development?
Okay, fine. That's a good one. Simply put, they will say it's what you hear, you say.
True.
A lot of people are out there listening to me. I'm sure they will hear one or two things by virtue of them listening to me. But if you cannot hear, you cannot develop your language. No child, you give birth to a child today, they don't understand what is language. They don't understand what is speech. They don't understand what is biscuit. They don't understand what is bye-bye, good morning, water. It's when you say it to them. That is why right from the
childhood,
womb, you understand, you say communicate with your child. An interesting story. When I was in my mom's womb, she would say, she goes to the hospital every now and then thinking I'm dead. And the doctor said, no, he's not dead. He's just calm. What you do is tap your tummy and speak to him. He will respond. And my mom said it, that she would say, Ebuka, inakwade. And I will say, I will move my body.
Wow.
So children can hear from the womb. So that's how it explains communication and language. So as children grow up, what you hear is what you say. And if you cannot hear by virtue of hearing loss, it becomes a problem for you to develop language. It becomes a problem for you to be able to speak, because naturally the child will just think the world is a silent place. Understand? There's music stimulation. Can you imagine listening to music and before you know it, you're following up with the music? But if you cannot hear, you cannot learn something new.
That's true. That's a deep statement. They imagine that the world is silent.
Yes.
And the world is anything but silent.
It's not silent.
Wow. So I want to ask this. How does hearing loss affect the quality of life of the average individual?
Yeah, that's a very strong one. Yes. This one, if you cannot express how you feel. Kayode called me over the phone. We exchange, we were able to say, I came to the studio before. He was expressing his feelings. I was able to express my feeling. But in a situation where I cannot do that, it becomes a problem. I will naturally isolate myself. Let's assume there is an Owambe going out there. And I know that I will have fun. My friends will have fun. But if I know I have hearing loss, I see everybody dancing. I couldn't hear what they're saying, or I couldn't join in the conversation. Naturally, I'll feel left out. At some point, I'll naturally start withdrawing from social gatherings. I'll start withdrawing from going to church. It will affect my religious life. It will affect my work life. It will affect my relationship. I've seen people who say they lost their relationship, they lost their fiancé because they have hearing issues.
Wow.
People don't want to struggle when they communicate with you. They want to be able to express themselves and you can understand them. But once that is not there, then it becomes a problem. So these are also ways it can affect your quality of life. If you cannot express yourself, if you cannot socialize, if you cannot go out there to enjoy yourself, then you become depressed. You start isolating yourself. So your quality of life will begin to reduce.
Oh, wow. If you're out there and you've got questions for Promise, please call in and let's have that conversation. 014489981. Also, you can send your WhatsApp messages to 0809444091. The topic today is the social and emotional impact of hearing loss. And of course, this is Smooth Health. It's brought to you by Evercare Hospital. We'll go on a quick break. When we get back, we'll do some more talking.
Love music. Love music. Love music. Love music.
Love music.
Love music. Love music. Music. Music.
Love life.
Love life.
Love life.
Love Smooth 98.1.
Cause I feel so high, I'm reaching out for your sky. I feel so high when I'm touching your sky, baby. I feel so high.
This is Smooth Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation that helps raise people's
Smooth
awareness.
Health is powered by Evercare Hospital, Lekki, transforming healthcare in Nigeria.
This is a Smooth Health on the Drive, brought to you by Evercare Hospitals, Lekki. We're talking about the emotional and social impact of hearing loss. And to drive that conversation with us is a specialist, Promise Okonkwo, who's a clinical audiologist at Evercare Hospital, Lekki.
Yeah, just before the break, we're talking about how hearing impairments affect communication and language. But now let's talk about, and we've also talked about how it affects the quality of life and socialization. But I'm sure that a lot of people are wondering, because you mentioned how generator sounds can affect hearing and other things related. At what age does an individual, at what age does an individual lose their hearing? Does it start from, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 30, 50?
Okay, people can lose their hearing at any time. Can lose their hearing any time. Like the instance I gave the other time, a young girl that had injury. Accident could cause people to lose their hearing.
Okay.
Medication could cause people to lose their hearing. So that can happen anytime. But for, let's say, adults, all things being equal, by the time you're clocking 40 years, 45 years, 50, it's important that you assess your hearing to know at what level is your hearing. You understand? Because at that point, what it simply means that for 45 years, for 50 years, you've been using your hearing organ.
True.
Even though a car now, the car before they worn out now, at some point, you understand? So at that point, you should be conscious about what you do with your hearing.
True.
You've gone to, I don't know, a lot of O1
Yeah, concerts, events, parties.
Events.
You wear headphones every day for years.
Yeah,
That's us.
people
Talking
using
about us right
headphones
here.
and stuff like that, and so since you know that is happening, it's just proper that you should assess your hearing. So you can't say specifically that this is the age at which people start losing their hearing, but relatively, by the age of 45, by 50, I can assure anyone out there that you need to check your hearing just to be sure that the rate at which your hearing is going down is not beyond normal.
So, a few years ago, I remember people saying your voice is really loud pitched. I said, well, yeah, I work on radio. People need to hear me. But I was worried. I said, okay, if I'm speaking a bit louder than most people, does it mean I'm not hearing people properly? So I actually did go to get a hearing test, and thankfully it was all fine. But could that really be a symptom of someone who maybe has problems with hearing?
Yeah. It's a way to tell if you have problems with your hearing, because a simple way to know is that whatever you say, first you get a feedback.
Okay.
Like I'm talking to you now, with the aid of this headphone, I could hear myself. So it helps me to regulate my voice. Am I talking too loud? Am I talking too low? I'll be able to manage the way I communicate with other people. But when you have hearing loss, no matter what the degree is, let's assume a moderate loss, which, normally I'm talking to you at a decibel of about 40 decibel, which is within moderate hearing. Or let's say a severe loss, but you cannot tell personally. By the time you begin to raise your voice and people are telling you you're raising your voice too much, I think you need to check your hearing. Because if you cannot hear yourself clearly enough, you would think other people cannot hear you. Right. So as such, you want to raise your voice. Or when you talk too loud and you feel like somebody close to you is not hearing you well, and you feel the need to keep increasing your voice. Maybe you're speaking to your mom or your father or your partner, and you feel the need to keep raising your voice, then tell your partner to check their hearing, because it's possible that they are not hearing you clearly. It's possible that there is hearing loss somewhere there.
I need to tell a lot of people around me to check their because sometimes I wonder why you screaming. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you might want to check yours.
Okay.
So, speaking about this though, let's talk about earwax.
Okay.
Could a large buildup of earwax cause any problems with hearing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
A large buildup, like you said, impacted, not just buildup, impacted earwax could cause temporary loss. It might not be permanent, but at least when there is, the ear canal is like a channel, a passage for sound to get into the ear. And if there is a build-up, if there is a blockage, if you're supposed to hear 100%, you probably will be hearing 50 or let's say 30%. And so at that moment, you will have loss in hearing. But, after cleaning, the hearing gets better. So a large build-up would definitely cause hearing loss. Understand?
Right. Okay, so we've got a few messages here. One from Aisha Atalala. She says, good afternoon. How often do I need to visit a doctor for an ear checkup? Because the truth is, I never do so, except when I feel pains in one or both of my ears. That's the first one. And Saint Fadju comes in to say, thanks for bringing this up. He's got someone that's dear to him that has issues with hearing, and it's really stressful with communication. So he's asking, how can they get a hearing aid? And also,
she's refused to go for a health check.
Yes. So how can they get a hearing aid? And I think you're going to address that in the later questions. But concerning Aisha's question, how often do you need to visit a doctor?
Yeah.
Or go for an ear?
Yeah. Okay. It now depends on the age of the person. If you are like 45 or 50 years and above, I will advise that at least once in every 2 years. That's if you don't have a concern with your hearing.
Okay.
Once in every 2 years is cool. Understand? If you're good, you have the money, you can do it once every year.
Okay.
Understand? But when you have a concern, it is important that you do a hearing check every year. Understand? So I can't tell you when to go see a doctor. Let me give you an instance. If you have a wax build-up, it is advisable you go see a doctor to help you clean it out. Don't try to do it yourself. When you do it, you are not actually helping yourself.
Let's break it down a little bit. When you say wax buildup, what does that mean? How do you mean? Is it the regular wax in the air that we use cutting boards to clean?
Okay. Just so people are not mistaken, wax is actually very good for the ear.
Okay.
Understand? In everything in life, when it becomes excessive, it becomes a problem.
Okay.
Even the water we drink, even the air we breathe in, when it becomes excessive, air can choke you.
Sure.
Water can kill you.
Sure.
Understand? The same thing with wax. Wax is very good for the ear. It's a natural secretion that protects your ear, that lubricates your ear, keeps your ear from infection. So I want people to be clear on that. Wax is good for the ear. But when you have excessive wax, you have build up in your ear, it can also be a problem. So when you notice that there is excessive wax in your ear, you need to see a doctor to clean it out.
All right.
That's about that.
Okay, doctor, tell us, how does hearing loss affect speech in adults?
Okay. Like I said earlier, it's what you hear, you say. As an adult, you don't want to remain. Let's take for an instance, an adult of about 40 years old, would have acquired a lot of language skills. You understand? Let me say maybe like 50,000 words, which, in your language repertoire, you have all that. When you want to say this, you want to say that, you always find the right word to use. But when you have hearing loss, let's say at 40, you start, you have severe loss in hearing, the language repertoire will not develop anymore because you are not adding more to it. You are not getting new words to add to it. So that will affect your speech. Understand? It will affect your communication, to affect language. Then again, hearing loss is the air cells. You're losing them out gradually. So I don't know how best to explain this. Imagine strings of organ. The organ will play the piano. When you hit this note, it produces a particular sound. When you hit this note, it produces a particular sound. The same thing with the air. If you see the cochlea in the air, when you lay it out, it's just like that. So whenever people talk to you, it hits a different note in the air. Now, when a part of the air is missing out by function of you losing out your air cells, air cells are like the string of air, they're in there, and you're losing them out. Somebody say, let's take for instance, somebody says thief, but it is out. all you heard is
Right.
so you were like, what is he saying? I didn't get what he's saying. Or someone say pat or fish, all you heard is ish. And you begin to wonder, what is he saying? Understand? It becomes a problem. If he says fish and you respond to the person that he says fish and you respond to the person ish, you'll be wondering that there's something wrong with you. Can't you hear me well? In such manner, when it continues that way, it affects your speech. The production of speech and language becomes a problem for you. Understand? Because the parts that are responsible for different sounds is missing. So as such, to put words together becomes a problem because each sound, ba, k, da, f, come together makes a sound, makes a word. Words make sentence. With sentence you express yourself in communication. You understand? So if each sound is missing, it becomes a problem for you to put words together, and as such your communication becomes a problem and it affects your speech also.
So is there a link between these? Sometimes some people find it hard to pronounce certain alphabets.
Okay.
Like the H sound.
Okay.
Right? So could this be as a result of perhaps some hearing thing that has some loss of hearing, perhaps in an environment where they've grown up and people are not used to saying that word. Now that person grows up not hearing that particular sound and assumes that's how it's supposed to be.
Actually, there are some people that, just like you said, the environment they grew up from, we call it articulation of speech sound. That might not be related to hearing loss.
Okay.
You understand? It might just be, I'll give you an example. My brothers, when they want to pronounce, they can pronounce it well. For me, I have this out factor issue. If you listen well, you will know that it's not that I have hearing loss. That's why it's been from birth.
Okay.
Understand? So that is a speech defect.
Okay.
Kind of. It's not a hearing issue. Understand? So it now depends on how common or the degree of speech defect an individual is experiencing. Then we decide to say, okay, let's assess this person's hearing and let's be sure this is not a hearing issue. Understand? But people can experience such speech defect, like articulation of speech, such a thing happens.
All right, we're almost out of time. In fact, we're completely out of time. But here's what we're going to do. I want to ask this question because it's really important. Can hearing loss be cured?
No. And then again, it depends on the type. I would say yes or no. Let's say it's a temporary loss. For an instance, wax blockage.
Okay.
When you clean out the wax, you get your hearing back. But if it's a sensorial loss, which affects the sensory organs and the nerves, that cannot be cured. Such is irreversible. Understand? Such is irreversible. It cannot be cured. It can only be managed.
All right. Also, we'd like to know this. Can a person with a hearing loss live a normal life?
Yeah, absolutely. They can live a normal life. There are lots of innovative technology that can help the individual. Hearing aids, cochlear implants, such thing can help individuals. Speech therapy, rehabilitation. So with all this innovative technology, an individual with hearing loss can live absolutely a normal life.
Are there any natural remedies or natural methods to improve hearing?
Well, it's good. It's natural food. Don't eat junks, consume less alcohol, don't smoke. All these things affect hearing. Understand? So try not to expose yourself to loud noise. When you find yourself in an environment like that, try to stay away. If you know you cannot avoid it, you can just, find a way just to manage it. Understand? So with all this, you improve your hearing. You get better hearing.
Right. So can you tell us how Evercare Hospital takes care of patients who have this hearing loss?
Yeah, there are a lot of hearing assessment procedures that that is going on in Evercare that you can, when you have issues or concerns with your hearing, you can come in. There are surgical procedures. There are earwax removing procedures. There's hearing aids, there's cochlear implant. As a matter of fact, we are trying to collaborate with one huge innovative company in hearing technology. we are bringing that to Evercare, so that once you have issues with hearing and you require cochlear implant, you don't have to travel abroad. You can do that in Evercare.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I'm going to take one more question real quick. This one here is from Neni. She says, my ear canal itches often, sometimes when she's having a drink or yawning, and she's asking why.
Having a drink and yawning. If your ear canal itches, I would say there's possibility that the ear is affected. Understand? And then again, there's possibility that the ear is too dry. I would, such a person, if you question further, you will realize that maybe they are so used to cleaning their ears with ear wax, thinking that they are cleaning out the wax in their ear. The wax is meant to lubricate your ear. It's just like when you have a dry skin, you feel uncomfortable. But when you apply lotion, you feel good. So if you're cleaning your ears out too often, your ear canals will be dry. They are meant to be wet. They are meant to be well lubricated. Once it's dry, it will always itch you.
All right. And final question. How can the listeners contact you at Evercare Hospital?
Okay. To contact us at Evercare, our location is at number 1 Admiralty Way, Bisola Drosimi Eti Drive, Lekki Peninsula, Scheme 1, Lekki, Lagos. So, and you can also contact us via our website, www.evercare.ng. Okay, and our telephone number is 081 3985 0710. I take that again, 081 398 50710. And you can email us on at info@evercare.ng.
All right. Thank you so much, Promise. It's a pleasure having you here. This was quite an interesting conversation. And, of course, I'm sure that the people out there would reach out to you at Evercare Hospital. That said, that's our show today. There's more to come, though. In a few more minutes, it'll be time for the Money Minute Show. So please stay with us.
Smooth Health on the Drive.
It's a global observation that helps raise people's awareness.
Every Thursday at 5:15 p.m.
If you didn't know, now you know.
Powered by Evercare Hospital, Lekki. Transforming healthcare in Nigeria.